Right in a sec. Looks like it's coming in. Seeing up. Seeing up. See, the problem is I have to wait for YouTube to turn on. I can't turn the, bless you. Or I can't mute it. You know what I mean? Connection is timed out. Please try again. I'm sorry, guys. You know, the other alternative, Andrea, is that I record it on Zoom and yeah, because it's disconnected twice. So now it's popping up. Okay, hold on.
We are on right now.
Okay, it's working.
Okay. Just remember to unmute when you guys speak tonight.
Okay. All right, I think it's recording. I think we're ready to go. Welcome to the August 20th Town Board meeting of the Town of Union Vale. If you would join me in a salute to the flag, we can start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice, thank you. Okay. So first order of business is to approve the minutes, July 16th.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second. All in favor of approving the minutes of July 16th?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. I'll jump right into the supervisor's report. The town board members have received all the normal financials and along with the abstracts and the deposits and all the monthly reports that we typically give out. This month, the cash flow was $245,000 in, which is 92% of our budget. We've been running, you know, last year we were typically at 100% of our budget every month, and this year we're running behind, as we all know. In looking at our comparison with this time last year, we are about 31.2% lower in revenue than last year. So we're just starting the budget process, and we're going to send out the budget schedule. We'll send that out to everybody. The town board members have it, but I wanted to mention that as we get into the budget process and get another month of numbers in, we'll know much closer exactly where we're going to end up at the end of the year, and I'll let everybody know. We were down enough to make us nervous, and so we've been very tight with our spending, which has been great. But I would like to mention the budget schedule because there are repeats here for the previous town board members and maybe some new things for the new gentlemen. But I would like to make sure that the public knows that in September, October, and November, we have work sessions, as everybody knows, on the first Thursday, and then the agenda meeting is the third Thursday. But in September, October, and November, we always have, we notice the work sessions to perhaps enable the board to take action. And we tend to do a lot of budget discussions, have them during the work sessions, and any other things that may come up. So those are going to be regular working sessions. So people should, the public may want to listen or come in to visit with those. Most importantly, there are public hearings on the budget the law requires us to have a public hearing, like right after the election. Like it has to be within 3 or 5 days of the election in November. But we've added, I think the last 3 years, this will be our third time, have added the extra public hearings, and they've always been beneficial. So we have a public hearing in September about the budget. We have a public hearing in October on the 15th, where we take public comments and answer questions from residents and take some input before we finalize the budget in the month of November. So our final public hearing is on November 5th, and that is on the preliminary budget. And then we vote on November 19th, because it's required we vote by the 20th. We vote on November 19th, and that preliminary budget becomes the final budget. Now, I did skip one step that makes sure everybody knows there's a tentative budget that we prepare that is available at the end of September. So the tentative budget will be available at the end of September. It's kind of worked over, it's looked over by all of us, and we meet with department heads and all of that in October if we have questions, and then we finalize it in November. So that's the process. But there are 3 public hearings, and we'd like to invite people to come and make comments, and we'd like to hear everybody's thoughts. So if you could come, that would be great. I also wanted to mention that this week I had requested residents write us about Optimum, because there were so many big problems with Optimum during the storm. Good. And I mean, look at the number. Look, it's amazing the number of written emails we got on complaints from Optimum, and a lot of them are very similar. The pricing is bad, the service is bad, the call center is bad, you can't get a hold of anybody, they just don't care, it's a monopoly, it's awful. So that's pretty much the general theme. But I'm literally going to take all of these and I'm going to scan them, and I'm going to send them to a new government representative that we've been assigned. And I want them to see these and read these, because not only is our contract up next year, but one of the things that we want to talk about is I was reviewing that contract from the file that's, I don't know, 10 years old, I think. And
I think it's probably 9 now.
is it 9? Is it a
Yeah.
10-year thing? So in that contract, it says that we can call them in for service issues if we feel like they're substantive enough. And I want to discuss that contract with Jeff Battistoni. And I think that probably I'll send that language to you guys, but I would think that we would all be of the mind that if it's in our contract, we call those people
We
in
used to
here.
have a guy named Roger Connor that used to come when we asked, and even on his own, sometimes he would come to keep us posted on service and deal with issues and complaints and stuff. Unfortunately, they eliminated that position, so there's a void there, and they don't seem to be too interested in any service issues or complaints.
It's completely different since Altice purchased them from
Yes.
Cablevision.
Definitely.
So the Altice model is different, and we're all suffering because of it, but we're going to make sure they hear all of these complaints.
Good.
And then I think if we can call them in, the problem is we have now a government rep, but it's almost like, who do you call in? There's nobody around. They have a call center in India. That's not their only one in their defense. I mean, they did have I found out they did have a COVID, a very widespreading COVID outbreak in one of their call centers. So they had to shut it down completely. And they took all those calls and sent them over to India. And it's a 45-minute wait. So they're not paying big bucks to the people in India, because you got to wait 45 minutes. They've got 3 people working.
Disconnected during that 45 minutes.
And you get disconnected. So it's just, but it was amazing to me. We asked for comments and we got so many, and everybody is suffering the same way. So we'll take a look. We'll get those guys in here per the contract. We are doing a conference call with them, all the supervisors and mayors with the county executive at the end of the month. So, which is about next week. So I'll let you know what comes of that. But it's really a disaster, and it's coming at a bad time for them, because all these contracts are up for renewal. But anyway, we'll talk about this again, because that's really an important topic. The other things that aren't really in a regular part of the agenda, I wanted to mention that the CAC is having a food for thought. Remember last year when they came up with food for thought and having people gather? It's not that big of a gathering, so we're probably not going to have a hard time with it, but we will apply all guidance that we're required to apply. But it's Saturday, October 3rd from 6 to 9. And they're having they're showing two films, A Living River and Farmscape Ecology, that were written by filmmaker John Bowermaster, who's a local. He lives across the river. It's all about the Hudson River and farmscape ecology. People love these movies. They're about 25 minutes each. So they'll be in to mention that again, but I wanted people to put October 3rd on their calendar. I'm in the middle of budget meetings. I've met with, from 3 to 5 every day. I have budget meetings with the department heads, and we've gotten a lot done. Next week, they'll be finished. And then we'll start preparing the tentative budget will be put together for everybody to look at and start kicking around, okay?
Mhm.
So that's what I'm working on right now. So at this point, I would ask for board member reports, and I can start with you, Councilman Welsh.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on an earlier report I did on the census. I had reminded residents that the census is a critical thing. And according to the government, not everybody is been forthcoming and registering with the census people. You know, it's every 10 years. And the idea is the 2020 census is to count every person that's living in the United States. It's very important that we have this because it provides critical data for lawmakers, business owners, teachers, and many others that provide daily services, products, and support to Unionville and surrounding community. Every year, billions of dollars of federal funding goes to hospitals, fire departments, schools, roads, and other resources based on census data. The results of the census are also determine the number of seats each state will have in the U.S. House of Representatives, and they use this information to draw from congressional and state legislative districts. So it's very important to have a good handle on how many people there are and where they're living so that proper representation can be maintained. So if you haven't registered, please call this number, 844-330-2020. If you prefer to do it online, the website is 2020census.gov. All this information is kept confidential, and the Census Bureau is bound by law to protect your answers and keep them strictly confidential. In fact, every employee that works for the census takes an oath that your personal information will be kept confidential. So it's important that everybody has responded as soon as possible. And in fact, pretty soon, if you haven't, they'll be coming to your home
Right.
in person. People will be
This
knocking on
month.
your door. So
Yeah.
if you want to avoid that,
The phone number again.
sure. Phone number is area code 844-330-2020.
Thank you.
So if you don't want to come into your house, call that number and provide the information they want. It only takes a few minutes, and you'll be doing a big benefit to your town and community.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, Councilman Derland.
Yeah, I don't have much other than I would like for a second to commend Ed on the cleanup of the roads during the storm. I happened to drive around a lot of the towns in the county. And I caught up with Ed one day, and he was out there by himself, cutting up and moving trees. And he got our roads as clear as possible without, power lines being in the way, but did the best that he could, quick.
Here,
Getting the
here.
roads open up, so,
Yeah.
Ed,
Nice
he did a
job.
great job.
Yep. Okay, Councilman McGivney.
I would like to commend Ed also on his, him and his guys' abilities and what they did after the storm. I seen him on my road, cutting up a fairly big tree. They were out there right in the thick of it. With a storm like that we had, it brings up the idea that we should be more prepared for events like this, widespread power outages and damage, things people should prep for, loss of communications. I think it's something that we can have a further conversation on, perhaps to help teach people what they should be doing or should be prepping for. So I think that would be good in the future.
Yeah. How about a presentation in the next board meeting?
Yeah,
10 minutes, 5, whatever, just a few minutes with an overview, which would, I think would be really helpful for everybody.
yeah, we could do that. for sure.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. And you'll run that for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be great, Councilman. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, that's great. Councilman Frazier?
The two previous there kind of stole my thunder, but same thing I had on my mind was to thank Ed and his crew for getting the roads opened up so quickly. I had a tree across South Parliament in my neighborhood that they got out of the way so we could get out of the neighborhood. Want to thank the parks crew as well for the same thing, cleaning up the storm debris at town properties.
Thank you. There was that big tree right over here on Duncan. Did you see that? So, and we got a nice email from a woman who was very attached to that tree, had a name for it and everything, and she's hoping that we put a new one in its place, a big grand tree that could, 20 years from now, maybe rival it, but
Maybe she'd like to donate.
yeah, maybe she would, because she had a name for it and everything, but I think it's going to be missed, that neat tree over there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all for your reports. I think if our town highway superintendent is up next, would you like to give us a report?
First off, I believe all of you know, we had a guy leave the crew. So when the storm hit, we were down 25% of my labor force. So I want to give a big hats off to the three guys that I do have, because they worked really hard and got the roads open for us. So
Fantastic job.
they should be commended, probably more than I should. So having said that, moving on to other business.
So, Ed, you want to turn your microphone on? Just touch the screen like I showed you and click the mic.
We on?
Yep.
We on? Okay, so.
Okay.
Took care of the storm damage.
Took care of the storm damage.
Had all of
We had all of
your roads open
that we
able
were
to
able to
have
have open
by
by
Wednesday.
Wednesday late evening.
Still a
There's still a
little
little
cleanup to be done, but with a limited crew, it's a little difficult, and quite honestly,
we
for contractors,
contracted
do
to
another
do
big
another
project
project at the highway garage
with a big
with a big
pile of
pile of
materials.
materials. So we had rented equipment come in
a week
right after the storm, so we were committed to
using
using that equipment.
We
So
will get back out there and
and
finish the storm
cleanup
as
as
soon as
possible.
possible. Our project at the highway garage, cleaning up the big pile of, we're gonna call it aggregate. It's a little mix of stone, it's a little mix of dirt, it's a little mix of everything. We figured that would be about a month's worth of work. We completed it yesterday,
Did you really?
phase one.
Oh, fantastic.
So we're basically 2 weeks ahead of schedule. Phase two goes into motion on Monday when the crew comes back. We're going to all the large rock that we found in our pile and concrete. It's all getting crushed, used for better aggregate on the side of the road.
And some of the dirt. It's gonna be like a
crushed stone product. So hopefully that part of that phase will be done by Wednesday next week, which puts us a week ahead of our schedule, which should put us like a week under budget on that project. So I'm pretty pleased having the skeleton crew that we are getting as much done as we are. So
That's great.
hats off to the guys. All right. Upcoming projects, with the material that we're making, we're scheduled to shoulder Quinlan Road and Still Road, budget depending, and budgets all for these projects are time related. If we can get them done in a timely manner and have extra budget money time wise, we'll move on to another road that we deem more shoulder work, and we'll do that. Another project that's on our plate, we're trying to eliminate all of the corrugated steel pipes, culvert pipes that are in roads that are decaying and they're having problems. I believe we're down to, I think there's only like 12 left in town. So we've been really banging those out for the past several months. One road that's going to be closed for probably no more than a day is Mallory. We've got a large crossing to do there with 2 large catch basins, so that's going to take us a little bit of time. We're also interviewing for a replacement guy. We have a lot of candidates, and I'm trying to weed through them. Let's see what else. have noticed,
and I'm sure
and
some of the
residents has noticed as well.
we're being vandalized, people with a sawzall, looks like a cordless sawzall, is cutting off some of our road signs. So when this slows down and stops, we'll replace the signs. I'm just afraid
we put a new sign up.
Until they get it out.
Until they get it out of the system, they're
Take a
just
new
gonna
sign
take a
down.
new sign down.
They're pretty costly.
Pretty costly.
Signs that have the names of the roads.
Road
names,
names,
and a couple of,
Pleasant Ridge extension where it connects to Pleasant Ridge is gone.
Are they stealing them or just cutting them?
They're cutting them off.
They're cutting them off and they're
So I'm
just.
assuming they're
so I'm
stealing.
assuming they're stealing.
Quinlan is missing.
Quinlan is missing.
The hard curve sign on Brush Hill is missing. And you can actually see the marks on the signpost where the saws cut bolts.
What a shame.
Yeah, so I guess people have enough to do. Yeah. So,
we were working with Betsy on our 2021 budget. I think we're plowing through that pretty good.
Yep.
So, other than that, I think that's about all we got, unless somebody else.
Well, I wanted to mention, well, two things. One, I really do want to commend the superintendent for the work during the storm. He and I went around places together trying to find where some of these issues were that we had between the cell tower and Optimum and all this stuff, and it was really helpful. Yes, even on a loader on a dirt road. So we got a lot of ground covered, but it was really helpful to kind of see things from a different perspective, and he's right on the spot whenever we had a problem. So I really thank you for that. The other thing is when we had our budget meeting this week, it came up, if you remember from a couple of meetings ago, the superintendent would like to put a new roof on the salt shed. And then I realized that part of the funding for that roof came from that abandoned tractor that had been left that he sold at auction. That money was put into the highway fund, and that was an error because it needs to be put into the general fund so that we can use it for the highway garage for projects. I've got it on the list tonight. That's one of the things I wanted you to be aware of. That as Ed and I were talking through it, I realized that had been deposited in the fund, so we'll have to have a motion to move it over. But that's the reason for that. And then we're looking for there's some other savings there. We're trying to piece together the other things he's not spending so that he can get enough money for the roof once he has his replacement. So it's coming.
And getting people to bid on projects is a little difficult right now. Everybody is very, very busy.
Yeah, you're right about that.
They don't want to be bothered with the paperwork involved either. It's a big hassle for the contractor.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that report. At this point, we have a town clerk report.
Thank you. I wanted to take a moment to formally congratulate Elizabeth Penko, who has now retired as of March. I never really said anything yet, but people have been asking about her, and I just wanted to let the public know that she has retired to spend more time with her family. And Kathy Wellman, whom some of you may know, will be taking her place. Other than that, DEC licenses are on sale. They switched over to a new platform, and mine is not working properly in terms of printing. So I've been working with them every day, and we're trying to resolve the issue. So if you are interested in purchasing a sportsman license, please call first. I'll add you to my list, and I'll be sure to return your call as soon as I'm operational again.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, public comments on agenda items. I don't know how we're going to do that. Oh,
So this is the time for future agenda items.
no, tonight's agenda.
I just have one.
I'm just wondering, wait a minute, I want you to get picked up on a mic. Can Glenn be heard?
If he's near a microphone.
Can we-
Glenn, yeah, you want to come on over and pull your chair up, or? Here, I'll put my mask on and you can,
I'm official.
there you go.
My request is going to be pretty quick.
Here,
And I've actually sent a note to each of the board members already. When you get to talking about the annexation, my only suggestion is you come up with a list of costs and benefits associated with that. And I know I've asked that question, and I know the comment was I should come to the meetings and hear about that, so I am here to hear about it. But when the time is right, I think it'd be beneficial for us to have a list of costs and benefits that everybody can understand. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Afridi? Mrs. Tillman, did you want to say anything?
Not right now.
Okay. All righty, thank you very much for that. You know, we had a letter from Karina Kelly, and since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and read her letter. We're having a public hearing about this, so we were thinking that you know, that would be when the Q&A is. But Karina Kelly writes to Supervisor Moss and town board members, I want to be clear about the discussion to annex properties owned by the town of Unionville under the jurisdiction of Beekman. This exact discussion came up very briefly during our work on the cell tower project. At that time, I was very much in agreement with the thought needed to be put into annexing these properties much earlier. I was also in agreement that it could be a topic and effort moving forward when the cell tower project was finalized. The economic climate has changed immensely over the past 12 to 18 months. The most obvious change in the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on our economy is our impact. Supervisor Moss has referred countless times to the loss of revenue and the need to make budget cuts. The land annexation project is a process. It is an undertaking that will require time and investment of legal funds. At the present time, town board members need to be cautious and discerning in spending funds. First and foremost, services to the town residents need to be addressed before optional spending is undertaken. I'm in complete agreement that the land annexation project should be slated for further research and discussion by the board. However, it is a question of timing. It would not be fiscally responsible of the town board to spend dollars on dreams that may never come to fruition as opposed to fiscal dollars spent on the present needs of the town residents. So that's good. And you know, we should have that discussion. And I think, you know, when Karina Kelly was on the board, we didn't really understand the process. We hadn't read the law yet. We didn't know. And we even thought we had to go out and get petitions carried by all the councilmen and get everybody in town to sign them and people in Beekman to sign them. And then we sat down and actually did the homework, and our attorney's done the homework. And it's actually a completely different process than I thought it was. It's a town board resolution. It's a town board resolution, and there is a process, a town board. Well, first we have to get an assessment, make sure that somebody certifies that the properties are uninhabited and their valuation is such. And then there's a town board resolution saying we'd like to annex it. And then there's a public hearing to talk about why we would annex it, whether or not it's in the public interest. And then after that, we've determined that if we do determine, if the public agrees that it's in the public interest, then after that, then basically if the other town disagrees, then they can take that case to the appellate division. But if they recognize that there's no detriment to their town, they may not do anything. So, but the process is a lot simpler, even though it's a procedural thing. You know, each meeting we'd have something to do. It's much simpler, and there's no, you know, we own the property, we maintain the property. Currently, it's part of the town.
And we insure the property.
And we insure the property. We have paid, you know, one of our hurdles was we were kind of all taken aback when we did a study of how much we had paid in municipal taxes to Beekman, since even just going back to 2007, and it was a little over $90,000. And it's because sometimes they put put us on the tax roll, and other times the administration takes us off, and it was this back and forth thing that is before my time, and I don't understand the history of the relationships. But so annexation would allow us to avoid that completely, and it also puts us in control of the municipality. So
And I think it'll
of all
also
of,
improve our relations with the town of Beekman.
and why do you think that? That's a good, very
There'd be
good
less
point.
friction because there's less controversy as a result.
Yeah,
I think the town could work, both towns could work together much better if we annex that property.
yeah.
It would be out of their concern.
And it's not enough property to even affect their CHIPS money on the roads. You know, it's like 0.12% of a square mile or something. I mean, it's really so small.
Yeah, with no residents.
It has no effect on
structures, no
Nothing.
infrastructure whatsoever.
Yeah. And I think you might be right, since the other towns that we have, we don't have any cross ownership, and we've never had a beef with anybody.
Yeah, it's a simpler process.
Yeah.
Simpler situation. I should say.
And another thing that Lizette Hitzman had mentioned years ago, and maybe Karina Kelly would remember, is that our constables patrol the park and they have no jurisdiction in Beekman. And, you know, when we pass ordinances or things that happen in this town, they wouldn't carry over to those 5 parcels. So, you know, it's in the public interest of the town of Unionville. And when we analyzed it, we thought they have no loss. We're not paying taxes now. So there's no loss to them. So I think that it's probably, for that matter, is probably.
And it's a liability for us if our constables can't patrol it, because Beekman is not having their constable or anybody patrol it.
No. As a matter of fact, we get all the calls.
Yeah,
They want us to take care of everything. Even the government will call us and say, hey, we got complaints.
yeah,
And we have no jurisdiction over there. So it is awkward.
it is.
And the process is so streamlined with the resolution and the public hearing and the input. And, you know, there's details to it that Jim Nelson is very mindful of, and our attorney. And we'll make sure that we dot all the i's and cross the t's, but it's definitely a lot easier than we thought it was initially. And I think Karina Kelly remembers the discussion from last year, which made it sound kind of onerous. So anyway, those are the thoughts in response to you. There's not much of, there's no difference in expense or anything for us. So as far as maintenance or purchasing or anything, I think in your email, it sounded like you thought we had to purchase the land. So just so you know, we don't, you know, we own it. So
I'll take advantage of the. I wasn't necessarily disagreeing with you.
yeah. Okay. I had a man come in here today that said he was very much for it because of, he fishes as a fisherman, and he's over there all the time. And he said it just makes so much sense because it's like, it's disjointed and the rules aren't always consistent. And he really, yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that comment, Mr. Morrison. At this point, we are going to go through our departmental reports. We don't really have any committees with us tonight. Things are kind of quiet. So we will go through our other reports. And I think, Councilman Derlin, do you want to start with the first one? You have the building department report?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, here's the monthly code enforcement report from George Kolb. Number 1, the Bacher home has been demolished and removed and is now in compliance. The code amendment for expired permits has been completed and has been submitted to the board for review. COVID-19 safety procedures with inspections are being followed with applicants and during site visits. Home sales are up considerably, and inspections for the required municipal searches have kept this office extremely busy. Building departments, building permits being issued are up as well and are reflected in the monthly income statements. The town solar project located on 55 has been submitted, and the application review will begin once plans have been received. And he will be out of the office from August 24th to the 28th for a scheduled vacation. And we'll be accepting emails via phone for projects from applicants and residents. And then she's got some work outlined here. He did 91 inspections, 4 violation notices were issued, 28 building permits issued, 11 old permit COs issued, 10 municipal searches, 3 complaints have been received, 3 violations have been abated, 20 residents, or he met with 20 residents, I should say, 18 certificate of occupancies for compliance, 3 complaints were acted on, 0 appearance tickets, 0 fire calls out, and 19 plan review hours.
Busy, busy, busy.
Pretty busy.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Parks report. Do you have that? Would you like to read that, Councilman Frazier, since I have an affinity for our parks? This is from Jake Gosnell.
Right. 8/20/20. Excuse me. We have drained, scrubbed, flushed, and refilled the kiddie pool to keep everything maintained and running properly. We have also been scrubbing down the sides of the big pool, running the pumps and cycling the water to keep it fresh. Everything has been set up for the courtroom and court entranceway for all the new procedures for our town court. We work closely with the justices and the constables, and I spoke with George Treadwell. He is our chief constable yesterday, and he informed me that everything is working out well. The Parks team has been working on a new exciting project over the past few weeks. We were preparing for a slight drawdown on Furnace Pond so that the engineers can evaluate the gate valves. We spent time talking with the engineers and putting our heads together to come up with the best solution. After some trial and error, we determined that the siphons would not be the best way, and we have come up with a great solution. As of today, at 11 a.m., the pond is down 57 inches, and we should be right where we need to be for the engineers next week. We had Hurricane Isaias, I guess is how you call it,
Sounds good.
roll through this past month. As I'm sure everyone is well aware, we lucked out in the park and did not lose too many trees. We continue to have ongoing cleanup and trail work from that storm. Our soccer fields have been in use again by local soccer teams, which is great to see. After giving our fields some TLC and some time off, we lined and groomed them all now, and they are being used regularly and looking great. I have had the pleasure of working with Eagle Scout Chris Anawal, and today we went through the park and picked some locations for some fishing loan collection stations. Please be on the lookout for those in the park. The Dutchess County GAA, which is partnered with the town of Unionville and Time Warner Park, is running daylight football clinics on Thursday evenings in Time Warner Park from 6 to 8 p.m. on Soccer Field 3. Our after-school program director left a few weeks ago, and we have spent the last week and a half interviewing numerous candidates, looking for a strong leader for our program moving forward. We have had some amazingly strong candidates, and we are excited to move forward. We will be running our program with all the usual procedures in place, plus all the extra precautions needed for COVID-19 to keep the children and our staff safe and provide our parents with much needed support. And as always, we have been mowing along through all of this. End of the report.
Yep, it's been a very busy time for them. And for, that's another thing, we've been interviewing about 3 people a day. It's been busy, but just like with the highway department and the candidates, the MEO candidates that have been come through for Ed Kading to review,
Yes.
the candidates for our director for the after school program and the full day program have been phenomenal.
Great.
So yeah, we're all feeling like we're in pretty good shape.
Should someone read that special announcement from Parks and Recreation?
Well, that's on that's on our list here.
Okay.
That's under new business, but
All
yeah,
right.
we'll get there. That's part of new business. I think at this point, we were going to discuss the changes to the town code before we got to the resolution. The changes to the town code with regard to the building department, the fees and the extensions under old business. So we're in 10.1, Kevin. So if you want to, now we've discussed this at a couple of other board meetings. And I know we've discussed it at a work session, but there were things that George Colbert approached me and asked that we help him with. And we shared that. We had a meeting with our attorney, Jim Nelson. And Kevin, you want to walk us through and what the final, and I think everybody may have heard this before. Sorry to repeat, but it's important for people to know.
You want to do the resolution now, or?
No, we'll read that at the end. Now, this is just a discussion about what we set up, which is probably, if you go to that 105.5, that gives the new rules.
All right.
Yeah, then you won't have to read that, but it kind of explains to people what it is we're doing.
Okay. So 105.5, which is building permits, I'll just read it as.
Okay,
Duration of the permit, building permit shall become invalid unless the authorized work is commenced within 6 months following the date of issuance. Building permit shall expire 12 months after the date of issuance. A building permit, including one which has become invalid or which has expired pursuant to this subsection, may be renewed or extended once for 12 months from the date of expiration. Upon application, the permit holder payment of the applicable fee and approval of the application by the code enforcement officer. On written application to the code enforcement officer and referral to the town board may, on a showing of demonstrated hardship and payment of the application fee, authorize a further renewal or extension of a building permit for such a term as it may specify. I mean, I can. You want me to read that again? You want me to read that again?
go ahead.
Okay.
Just to make sure everybody hears. Steve did that.
All right, 105.5. We need like a microphone police around here to keep us honest. All right, 1055, building permits. The duration of the permit. Building permits shall become invalid unless the authorized work is commenced within 6 months following the date of issuance. Building permits shall expire 12 months after the date of issuance. A building permit, including one which has become invalid or which has expired pursuant to this subsection, may be renewed or extended once for 12 months from the date of expiration or invalidity. Upon application, the permit holder, payment of the applicable fee, and approval of the application by code enforcement officer. On written application to the code enforcement officer and referral to the town board, it may, on a showing of demonstrated hardship and payment of the application fee, authorize a further renewal or extension of a building permit for such term as it may specify.
So
You want me
the-
to explain that?
would you, that'd be great.
All right, so I think we discussed in previous discussions, being on the planning board before, having applicants come in with applications, and they would come in, maybe make an initial presentation, and then they would maybe come in one more time, or however it worked out, and then they would disappear for an extended period of time. Some of those applications were new, but some of them also had, citations or warnings attached to them, where George had to basically compel these people to come before the boards to try to get them to get into compliance. So over the years, a few of them lagged on for years. Some are still lagging on, I would argue. And so we decided to address it with this, and this code change basically limits the permit for 1 year with a 1 year renewal. So kind of, or hopefully will compel people to see the permit through.
Which is great. I think just in a nutshell, there was an infinite number of extensions prior.
Yeah.
And some people, would extend for 12 years. Yeah. And so now they have that first year when they come in and get their permit, and then they have a 1 year extension. So it gives them 2 years.
Yeah.
And in addition, George had requested that hardship petitions come to the town board level, as opposed to people asking George to give them exceptions on that. He doesn't, it's not his role.
Yeah.
So if somebody has a medical or a financial hardship and they want the town board to help give them it, let's say you're 95% of your project and your permit runs out yesterday, like just now, that the board may want to give them, not force them to re-enroll or give them. So anyway, that alleviates things. So 1 year extension, hardship petitions go to the town board. And then what's on the previous page, which is just in mind, is that we're taking the fee schedule out of the town code. The fees haven't been changed in years, but we're taking it out of the town code. And what we're going to do, we're going to put it in our master fee schedule, which the town board reviews and approves one of the 3 months in the first quarter every year since I've been here, I know. So if George wants to tweak some of the fees, or if it's recommended by the board that some of the fees be changed, it'll go in the master fee schedule. Yeah, it'll be approved by the board instead of, having to do a code change for a fence permit or something.
Yeah.
So that's really it. And then you'll read the resolution during that part of the meeting. And it's pretty straight. And there will be a town there'll be a public hearing to discuss that. And one other thing I wanted to mention before, and the next up on old business is annexing 5 time parcels, is that there is a public hearing with that as well. So we'll enjoy more comments. But I think we've covered the annexing of the 5 parcels enough for discussion. Anybody have any other comments you want to make about it? Is it easy enough to understand before we get to the public hearing part?
Very straightforward.
Yeah.
It's pretty, okay, all right.
I have a question on the building permit. What occurs if the applicant doesn't complete their house, or whatever their project is, after the second term expires, and they don't have any explanation of hardship?
Well, it's gonna come before us, and we're gonna have
Well,
to.
no, not if it doesn't have a hardship.
There's no hardship.
They just have to get a new 1 year
Start
permit.
over again.
Yeah, they have to start their, I forget what it was, they have to start their application process all over again.
Yeah,
Have to
George-
repay all the fees associated with an application
Mhm.
and start again.
They just
Which
started.
will also compel them to get it done.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna take 2 whole years.
Yeah.
Right, I just was wondering what, I didn't hear that explained in what you read there, so.
Yeah, it's not in what I read here, but I think we discussed it previously.
Yeah, what, 2 years and then they'll start over.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, any other comments or questions about changes to the code or annexing the 5 Time Moore Park parcels? You got everybody that good? Unionville Solar, Jake mentioned it in his report, or maybe it was George's report. Yeah, it was George's. So we got their building permit application today, and they're ready to go. They also have to, this is for the construction on Route 55 for our solar development. They have to notify the DEC 5 days prior so that Wes Salis, the guy that's in charge of our territory and knows our landfill really well, he wants to come over here and take a look around and take pictures before they actually start construction. So they're aware of that. They submitted the permit. We're kind of on our way. We'll be hearing from them soon. I think he's moved over to that Beekman, to the 1.39 acres on Beekman. I think he's already slid down a little bit. And he's waiting for all those construction guys to show up though. He's hoping.
Big business.
He's excited. But anyway, our project is moving forward and everybody's thrilled about it. We did sign the agreement with the town for the town planner that we are sharing with our shared services agreement with LaGrange. She's actually a full-time employee of LaGrange and we're hiring her by the hour as needed. So that's it's a great way to do it. Now, Councilman Frazier, you're working with us on our disaster preparedness plan. And I don't know if you want to start setting up meetings with the team or how you want to handle that. We've got lots of time, but.
Right. I thought what I would do, like I mentioned at the workshop, I'm doing a side-by-side comparison of the template and what we already have in place and marking the spots that need some work. I will, I'm also putting in some suggestions for what we need, and I will have that complete for our next workshop session.
Great.
And then I can bring that in and we can go from there.
That's great. Thank you very much. Now, I did get an email from the Hyde Park Emergency Management Plan is apparently well known as being terrific. So I asked them to send it to me and I got it. So I'm going to forward that to you. And if you don't mind adding another side-by-side comparison, if there's, and even Bill Beal said to me, it's great, you should take a look at it. So I am going to forward that to you. And I guess I'll CC the rest of the team members like George Treadwell and John and myself. And everybody will have a copy in case you want us to refer to it when we get together. But hopefully you'll find some stuff in there that you might want to adapt if it's that good. Thank you. Furnace Pond Dam, the engineering process moving forward. I wanted to mention one thing that to think about. I want to just plant a seed. This town board and last year's town board, we had one of the things we want to do is become responsible dam owners and get our dam, updated and make sure it lasts another 100 years and all that. So we hired Malone and McBroom to come in and do an engineer. They're working on their engineering analysis now. They did some pre-work last year. And, but I'm hearing comments that I just want to mention that we need to be aware of. Little things, they haven't written anything and they haven't been, and the siphoning or the reduction of the water in the pond that lets them to come back and analyze the valves and then see everything much more clearly. And I want to say this in public so that the residents give this some thought, and this is something that we need to hear from them on down the road, and it could be in a few months, but I'm hearing comments like, oh, there's a little more seepage than there was last year when I was here. And my thought is that our dam is over 100 years old, and the plan was to hire these engineering analysis, these engineers that have done a lot of these, and have done some terrific work and are highly regarded by the county, and they've done a lot of their old dams. But the one thing that I think that residents should be aware of is that, and I haven't talked to them, but we want to fix that dam to make sure we have a beautiful lake and the dam is good for the next 100 years. They may come back and tell us that it is cost prohibitive, meaning it needs so much, I don't know, I'm not quoting them, but it needs so much work because of what they're finding with the extra seepage or this or that. And the only other alternative to that is find and actually our superintendent of highways was saying that he's been involved with a few where they actually put another dummy dam behind it that's made out of special material, even what is it, that rubber EDPM, that,
Yeah, EDPM.
yeah,
it's
so
very
that's
durable.
waterproof. And
Yeah.
so there's more than one solution perhaps to this. But the worst case scenario, and people need to be aware of it, is that it is determined that it is, beyond our reach maybe, and then the dam goes away. And if the dam goes away, we have a big stream that just keeps
Well, it
on
looked
rushing
like
right through.
Across the road from the
Yeah,
park on Buzzkill.
and I think, yeah,
Dam let go
it was
last year.
pretty unattractive initially, and then now things are
Over time,
growing in.
Yeah, nature takes its course. and-
Yeah. And I don't know what they're going to tell us. I just think that I was a year ago saying, oh, we got to fix that dam. We love the beautiful lake. We love all this. And I'm just hearing these little side comments. And I think it's something that the residents should keep in mind, that it's going to be an upcoming conversation, and they ought to walk on over there and take a look and see how they feel about that. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So thank you for that great report on the census, because we definitely need people to sign up. New business tonight, a joint municipal agricultural and farmland protection planning, a plan that we mentioned earlier, that because we have the shared planner, what we were sent by, the town of LaGrange has invited us to participate with them. It's kind of like our NRI maps that the Conservation Advisory Council is doing. They prefer to give the grant money and do the work with 2 towns at a time. And so in this case, the ag and markets people have these farmland grants, but we would not be eligible for those grants if we didn't have a farmland plan in place. So, and LaGrange found that out. LaGrange wants to submit for a grant, and they want to do it with us. They would be lead. And it's an inexpensive cash cost. And then, it's $1,250 in cash. And then there's in kind for printing and personnel and all that stuff that you have to pay. But if it puts us in good stead so that we can be eligible for all these other grants.
Mhm.
I was talking to our planning board chair, Pat Cartolemi, and these NRI maps are pretty compelling because they're so good. They're visually just tells the story very easily.
Mhm.
This kind of thing, along with those NRI maps and some other projects that we're thinking about down the road, kind of go hand in hand. So I thought it was nice that LaGrange invited us in, and we can talk about that also during the resolution reading if anybody has any other comments. Now, the annual town audit conducted by Ted Eglett. He did all of our cash audits at the beginning of the year. He's got all the material for what they call the supervisor's books or the town's audits. He told me that he was going through it, and it will be ready for the September meeting of the report. So he should have that all finished, our annual audit from last year.
Okay.
All right. Here, John, this is our discussion. This is, we always have an after-school program, and we have a TGTT, which is our full-day program. And we haven't changed any of either of those, but certainly the school setup has changed, and our parents are very stressed about what in the world they're going to do. And it seems like the school plans change every day. I heard about an Arlington meeting last night and some of the things that they mentioned last night. So our view was that we want to be very supportive of our families, and starting in the town of Unionville and then in the broader community. So we've had a lot of meetings about this. We sent out an email. Stephanie Doherty from Recreation sent out an email to everybody on our list, which is probably 800 people, a lot of people, but that have participated in our programs before, asking them, how can we help you? Specifically, we know it's in flux, but what can we do? You're familiar with our programs, the full day and the half day or the partial. What can we do? And the emails that we got back were, people extremely concerned about school. Apparently, the majority of the parents want the kids to go to school, 70% versus 30.
Kids have to have some supervision.
Right.
That's a key element.
So in what we did, I mean, so we've already got these plans in place. What we did was we had Sullivan Data come over and tell us, our IT providers, tell us what, to beef up, we're going to need some more access points for Wi-Fi over there. So, but the system that we have in place now is good for up to 200 people. It's just the strength is really weak in several areas. So they came over and looked at that yesterday. We've taken all the points that the parents wrote us in the emails. And John, do you want to walk through and read this? Because this is about
Sure.
what the parents
Yeah.
told us they wanted, and this is consistent with our other
Yeah, I
programs.
think it's a lifesaver for a lot of families.
Oh, I hope
All
so.
right, a special announcement from Parks and Recreation Department. Town of Unionville Parks and Recreations plans to offer their full-day, thank goodness there's time more, TT program to families beginning September 10th. Hours will be 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Location, Unionville Parks and Recreation Department, 8 Timor Park Road, LaGrangeville. We will help to facilitate virtual learning. Children will be required to bring their laptops / Chromebooks. We will assist with schoolwork while mixing in safe day and outdoor play. Sign up at www.unionvale.com.
MyRec. Yeah, that's the MyRec. It's on our website.
Okay. Registration for Unionville residents will be starting August 24th, 2020. Open registration for non-residents begins August 26th, 2020. Yeah, I think this is going to be very helpful to a lot of families. So the parents can work and the kids will have somewhere to go and have some connection if school especially is not what it was.
It's going to be tough. And actually, Councilman Derlin and I had an excellent conversation about this earlier in the week. 2 things as a result of that. Thank you very much for your input. Number one, we have a 2-day period where the Unionville residents can register first. So we don't need that much of a day because I think the parents are pretty much, they know what they want to do or they know what they need. So we've got an exclusive 2 days for the Unionville residents, and then it'll be opened up to all the rest of the community. And we have a lot of regular customers from elsewhere that we'd like to come back. But the other thing is the discussion that we had was, I think you highlighted for me, and we forget that the parents, it's such an expenditure. And I felt sorry since I hung up with Kevin. I was like, oh my God, what are the single parents going to do? Like, what would a single parent do?
Sure.
It's a really tough position to be in. I did talk to Kieran Lawler, and I asked him if he would please consider going to Albany, to the legislature, and asking them for a carve out, well, so that the parents, even if it's just on state taxes, so that they can write off the expenses that they have to go to pay for this outside. They paid their taxes for schools and the kids aren't going to be there.
Right.
So if they have to go to these additional expenditures, is there a way the government, the state would allow them to at least deduct that cost off of their income? And he said he thought it was a great idea. And I think you should tell us a little bit about what you've seen out there, because you're right in the forefront of this and
Sure.
kind of in the
I'm right
forefront.
in the forefront. I have
2 kids.
a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And obviously my kid's school got shut down in March like everybody else.
Are you on mute?
What? Andrea.
Just got pulled over. All right, yeah, so I have a I have a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old at home. And obviously, like everybody else, our kids came home March 10th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot. First, I have a full-time job. Luckily, I could still work, and my wife also could still work. She works for the county. But that put a lot of burden on us to try to figure out what we were going to do, how we were going to transition to what we were seeing. So at first we tried me teaching one day, her teaching, doing what we could using up time that we had or time that we could use to try to teach the kids. And eventually we settled on hiring somebody that got laid off.
Wow.
It was an incredible cost. And that even included going into the summer, even though there was no school, but we both were still working and all the camps being closed, things like that. So we've been absorbing some serious costs all summer. And now that some of the restrictions have relaxed, we've seen some of our friends, and that is the only topic of conversation.
That's it, right?
Is, luckily most of my friends are still able to work, and they're all stressed out. Their kids have to go to school. That's what, number one, that's what they pay the taxes for, not only for an education, but that's how they can go to work. They can't go to work unless their kids are in school. I mean, my kids need to be taught everything. They can't, both my boys are too young to sit in front of a computer and start teaching themselves.
Right.
Start reading, they actually need instruction, and they need someone there to supervise them.
Sure.
From babysitting capacity,
Right.
And I think that parents are stressed.
They're really.
It's really.
Some of those emails were.
And then, guidance changing still day by day. School starts in 3 weeks. I mean, if we have this program, I think it's
Well-
At least for me, I know, and obviously I've had this conversation, I'm sending my kids, or my one son, I'm like, one kid luckily is gonna go to his pre-K program, offers 5-day, but, that's because we paid to have him go to that program.
Right.
But I think this is a great opportunity for,
The families.
for the families,
Yeah.
you know, whether they're single
And
parents.
we'll, you know,
or
we'll be
both
following all the
families.
protocols down there. And one of the things is that this is, we're going to be facilitating the virtual learning. But they'll know they're in a safe place. They'll know somebody's watching them all day long. They'll somebody's be in the room with them.
Yeah.
But also when they get their breaks, they'll be outside. You know, they're going to be run outside. They're going to be, you know, they'll be in small groups and they'll be spread out and they'll be outside. And so it'll be healthy. But I have to tell you, we have found some absolutely terrific people. So we have, you know, one of the candidates has been in school administration for 22 years, retired. Another candidate is a recreation expert that has a fabulous job, you know, as a recreation director in a program, you know, pretty far away, and looking to get more involved with the municipal recreation side, but just wonderful skills, wonderful interpersonal skills, great administrative skills. We're thinking that this is going to be a good thing for our family and our program. So thank you very much for your help this week. And by the way, Kieran Lawler was very interested in that idea. If anybody has, if you like that idea and you want to urge, I would say call Kieran Lawler, your assemblyman, and call Sue Serino's office and say you'd really like to see that happen. And you know, I know that.
Call the governor.
Yeah, call the governor.
Yeah,
You never know, but they all know that people are in trouble.
actually, that's one reason he's been pushing for schools to open, because he realizes people have to work. And if schools are closed, it's very difficult for both parents to
Yeah.
work.
Well, I hope this helps a little bit, and you know, we're
Yeah.
gonna put this on the, I think the web, it'll go out on where they normally put things on Facebook and on the web on Monday, so people will know.
And a
Okay.
TV channel, I hope.
Yeah, everywhere, all of our regular media outlets. Yeah. All right. We'll make sure that happens. Okay. Oh, I did also want to show, I didn't bring the whole big booklet because there's still one piece, but you will be getting a copy this summer, the big project with Shelley Knight, our camp director, and Stephanie Doherty, Wendy Fred, and Andrea Casey, and myself. We gave the littlest input, but just put in semicolons and things when they were needed. They did a great job. This new manual, and you can see how extensive it is from all the modules. We turned it into modules, so you pull out the piece you need to turn into the health department, pull out the piece you need to give to the parents, whatever it is. But the new Parks and Recreation Operations Manual, I think it'll be ready. They're just adding the after-school part, and then we'll be done. But they've worked hard on it. It's a great module. It's a great operation plan, and you guys will get copies of that at the next meeting. The other thing is, we didn't mention this before, and this came up earlier, but Loretta Ryan has had a boring summer because our equestrian center has not been thriving this year, unfortunately. There's no shows, there's nothing that they can do. But she is the publisher of the Horse Source for 2020. And I'm just going to show everybody how beautiful the cover of the Horse Source is. And she puts this together, and it has all the available resources for people. We still have a lot of them in Unionville that love horses, and they're looking for stables or food or whatever that is. She's got a lot of great information in here, and we carry these. I think we have some in the front, don't we?
Yeah.
Great, just like Betty used to. Anyway, the Horse Source is in print and ready. And that's really it for new business. At this point, we can go to the resolutions, and then we'll end with our budget adjustments and paying of bills. So at this point, we have, I think I turned 3 into 4 resolutions because of the annexation. And I believe Councilman Derlin, consistent with your building work tonight, would you handle resolution 2030?
Sure can. Resolution 2030, removing the building permit fee from the town code. I'm getting faster here. All right, resolution 2030, removing the building permit fee from the town code and authorizing 1 permit renewal. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville does hereby set the 17th day of September 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at the Town Hall, Town of Unionville, 249 Duncan Road, LaGrangeville, New York, 12540,
as and for the time, date, and place of a public hearing to consider local law amendments to Town Code Chapter 105 entitled Building, Construction, and Fire Prevention, specifically 105-5, Building Permits, and to Chapter 128 entitled Fees, Land and Fees, Land Use, specifically 128-4, Building Permits and Related Matters. And be it further resolved that the proposed amendments with language to be added, underscored, and language to be deleted, which is stricken through, are attached here too, incorporated herein, and the town board does hereby waive a verbatim reading of the said amendments and does not direct said proposed amendments to be spread across the record as if they in fact had been read verbatim. And further request that the town clerk publish notice of the proposed amendments at public hearing. And be it further resolved that the aforesaid action, which involves the ongoing administration of the town without new programs or a major reordering of priorities as a type 2 action requiring no seeker review. Be it further resolved that said amendments, if adopted, will take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State.
All right, is there any other discussion about that? Everybody good? Roll call vote? Oh, yeah. It was introduced by Councilman Derland, and now it's been seconded by Councilman Frazier. Thank you. All right, can we have a roll call vote to address the resolution?
Councilman Derland,
Aye.
Councilman Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Welsh,
Aye.
Supervisor Mott.
Aye. All right. Resolution 2030 passes. And now we will go and get the rest of these out of here, so quick on that. Resolution 2031, Councilman Welsh, would you mind taking it?
Yeah, is my mic suitable?
I don't know if there is no like microphone next to it.
How's that?
Yeah. Properly close to that.
I click where it says join audio.
But is it your,
I think it's your, like, some setting on your computer. I forgot to look at it before.
It's showing that it's on.
yeah, it doesn't show you have a microphone on here. Here, hold on one second. Let me just. Oh, it does? Okay, sorry.
All right. Okay, thanks.
There you go.
All right, Town of Unionville, Resolution 20-31, authorizing an application for 2020 Municipal Agricultural and Farmland Protection Planning Grant. AGM 01-MA FPP-2019-0009. Whereas the town of LaGrange is applying to the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets for a municipal agricultural and farmland protection planning grant for the town of LaGrange. And whereas the grant opportunity allows 2 municipalities to apply jointly for funding, with one municipality designated as the lead municipality for contract purposes. And whereas the town of Unionville and the town of LaGrange are adjacent municipalities sharing the full length of their western and eastern boundaries respectively, and have several shared service agreements for key personnel who will participate in the preparation of the joint plan, notably the town planner. And whereas the Municipal Agricultural and Farmland Protection Planning Grant opportunity requires applicant municipalities to authorize the submission of an application and must provide a 25% match of cash or in-kind services, including a minimum of 20% of that match in cash contributions. And whereas for the maximum grant award for a joint plan of $50,000, each town shall earmark at a minimum cash contributions of $1,250. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville does hereby authorize and approve the application for a grant to the New York State Department of Agricultural and Markets for a joint municipal agriculture and farmland protection planning grant with the town of Unionville, with the town of LaGrange designated as the lead. Furthermore, be it resolved that the town board of Unionville authorizes the town supervisor of the town of LaGrange to sign and submit the application on behalf of 2 towns.
Great, thank you for that introduction. Is there a second? Okay, any discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It says here that we're gonna have to match 20%. That's $10,000. Do we know where that's coming from?
It's, well, we're only half of that, which would be 25,000. And what Jennifer O'Donnell sent was saying that it wouldn't be more than $5,000 that we'd be required to match, and that would be in kind. So there's no cash. The cash is $1,250, and the match is $5,000 in kind, which could be personnel for the year, printing, all of those extras.
I'm seeing it say here, there's a 20% of that matching cash contribution.
How many is 20% of the 25%?
It's our part of it. The 50 is 25,000 for a single municipality. So the cash match, the grant requires a cash commitment of $1,250 from each town, as well as a commitment of $5,000 of in-kind work, which is easily achieved with the work of the planner and any contributions of time by our partners, the people we're going to be partnering with, and we get to count their time towards that in kind. The people that we partner with are the Dutchess County Soil and Water, groups like that. So Dutchess County Land Conservancy, the DC Cornell Cooperative Extension, all support the proposal, and their donations of time count towards our in-kind grant.
Okay, I just did another quick calculation. $2,500 would be our cash contribution.
Well, it says the cash commitment is $1,250. So if this is what
So we're splitting that 2,500 then by the sounds of it.
yeah. She said $1,250
All
for
right.
us and $1,250
town,
for LaGrange.
okay.
Yeah.
And we have that available?
Yes, we have that available. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Derland,
Aye.
Councilman Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Welsh,
Aye.
Supervisor Mott.
Aye. Okay, resolution 2031 passes. Thank you very much. We are down to resolution 2032. This is, we didn't talk about this earlier. Let's talk about it during discussion. I'll go ahead and read this one. Resolution 2032 to request the Beekman Town Board's participation in the annexation process of 5 parcels of land in Timor Park that reside in the town of Beekman. Be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Unionville would like to invite the Town Board of Beekman to participate jointly with the Town Board of Unionville in the annexation process of 5 parcels of Unionville property that are located within the boundaries of the town of Beekman. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Unionville will send a communication to each Beekman Town Board member on Friday, August 21st, informing them of our intention and invitation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, for discussion, I just wanted to point out that attached to your resolution is the same letter of invitation. We came with some redlining from our attorney, Jim Nelson. And if you see, and that's the straightforward invitation that we send them. And then we ask, the next resolution is the second part, which is we ask the assessor to certify some things.
Yes.
I don't think we need to read this out loud because that'll be going to them on email. Does anybody want it read out loud?
No.
No? Okay. It's just 2 paragraphs, so please join in, and we hope you'll join us next year for our 50th anniversary of Timor Park. All right, any other discussion or questions? All right, can we have a roll call vote, please? Town clerk?
Councilman Derland,
Aye.
Councilman Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Welch, Supervisor Mott.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. This is resolution 2032 carries. The final resolution for the evening, resolution 2033, to request certification of facts pertaining to the 5 Timor Park parcels in the town of Beekman owned by the town of Unionville. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Unionville requests that the Beekman tax assessor certify information about the following 5 Time Warp Park parcels owned by the town of Unionville located in the town of Beekman. I'm going to read the addresses and I'll leave the parcel numbers for inclusion in the record when the resolution is attached. The 5 parcel addresses are 43 DeForest Lane, 16.2 acres, Duncan Road Rear, 22.2 acres, Duncan Road Rear, 10.4 acres, 51 Lime Mill Road, 23.2 acres, and finally 177 Dorn Road at 4.9 acres. And be it resolved, in order to pursue the annexation process, the Beekman tax assessor must certify the following required facts. 1, ownership of the 5 parcels. 2, valuation of all 5 parcels. And 3, inhabitation, all of which will be requested on August 21st, 2020. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion or questions about that?
I got one question.
Sure.
This is probably, you should direct it to Jim Nelson, but would there be any implications for us to have any liability or any reason to be involved with the roads where there's frontage, like on Dorn Road or Duncan Road in the town of Beekman?
I don't know if Jim is on. I don't know if he can hear that or if he,
Jim, we have to put our speakers on in order to, if someone does. We have them all muted.
he's not muted.
No, he's not muted, but our speakers are. So we can't hear us.
I have my speaker turned up.
Okay.
Jim, I don't know if you're there and you can hear this. He may be recording it.
Betsy, you're gonna need to turn your speaker off.
Thank you. Jim, are you there?
Somebody else has a speaker turned on.
Well, I will ask him that. John,
Maybe you should turn your microphone off, Betsy.
I did.
It's showing that you're.
Oh, you mean this one? Yeah, I think that if they're not our town roads, the answer is that they're Beekman's responsibility, but I'll ask him tomorrow.
But if our town line goes up to the road, that's my concern.
He said, he texted me.
Which, I'm not understanding your
Yeah, I'm
question.
not either.
Some of these parcels are bordered by roads.
Right.
And if the town line goes to the end of the parcel, will we have any responsibility for maintaining those roads?
The road will remain Beekman's.
You sure?
Why wouldn't it?
Of course. We don't own those roads,
I know that. But
why would it
our town
change?
line will be up to the edge of the road.
Well, we'll ask him.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Jim texted me and he said this is a preliminary inquiry, revalue, et cetera, need to check and advise on the roads. That's what he said.
Okay, I just want to be sure. This is something that I'm not clear on. I just figured I don't want any surprises.
I'm just wondering, it's an interesting question because if our town goes like to the town of Washington, right where it crosses over there, you know, when you're coming through the fountains.
Yes,
So our town line goes right there. So
right.
we're not, so I'm just curious, whenever you're at a town line like that, what is the implication for?
Well, that's a little different. The road, the town line is perpendicular to the road. In our case, the town line will be parallel to the road. So does that mean that we own to the center of the road or not? Or does Beekman retain the whole road?
Where's the right of way and all that?
Yeah,
Okay, that's an
That's my
interesting
only
question.
question.
Yeah, good one. Okay, he'll let us know tomorrow. That's terrific. Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, then let's take a roll call vote, please.
Okay, Councilman Derland,
Aye.
Councilman Frazier,
Aye.
Councilman McGivney,
Aye.
Councilman Welsh,
aye.
Supervisor Mott.
Aye. Okay, resolution 2033, requesting certification. As Jim said, is preliminary, but the resolution passed. And we're going to have some more interesting questions come up, I'm sure. It's a fascinating process. Thank you very much. At this point, our resolutions are finished for the evening. I wanted to go to number 13, approve budget adjustments, transfers, warrants, and paid bills. I left everybody a list. There's going to be another list next month of transfers that are from, we have done a complete cleanup, and there's some due to and due froms, as they call them at the comptroller's office, from 4 and 5 years ago, but we're going to give you a list and we're going to go through them one at a time next time. This time, I wanted to make a motion for number one, that we transfer $12,000 in auction proceeds for the abandoned equipment from the highway account where it was initially deposited and move it over to the general fund, which it should have been put in because it's going to be used. You don't put it in the general fund because of where it's used. You put it in the general fund because of where it came from, which was not highway equipment.
Okay.
And so we can put it in the general fund and use those funds to repair the roof.
Yeah.
So let me rephrase. I'd like to make a motion that we transfer $12,000 from abandoned highway equipment from the highway account to the general fund. Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of that transfer?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay. And the second one was, we could have done this anytime this year, but we finished paying the F-350. And we had planned on finished paying it. We knew it was coming in July, the final payment. And as a result, and Steve, remember we had that stump the band moment with the budget last year? I don't know if you remember, but we were in the courtroom. We were doing we were reviewing page by page of the budget again. And Steve had mentioned something that had come up and I said, we'll vote on it next year in the contingency fund. But the $5,742.42, the final bit of payment for the F-350 that is owned by us, used in the park, was going to be paid from the contingency fund. So that money needs to move from the contingency fund to the parks budget, which is 7110.2.
Okay.
Okay, and it's been paid off. It's just that we were taking it out of the parks budget and not out of the contingency, which is where we decided to. So, and that's the only thing we've had come out of contingency all year so far, which is good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make a motion that we transfer $5,747.42 for the F-350 that we paid off from contingency fund A1990, A1990 to A7110.2, which is the parks budget line.
I'll second that.
Now, all in favor of that transfer?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, that motion transfers. We'll take care of those Monday.
All right, as a follow-up to that, I'd like to make a motion, we pay the bills.
I'll second that. All in favor of paying the bills?
Aye.
All right, aye. All right, we will pay the bills. Thank you. That was another unanimous vote. Now we have public comments on town issues. Do you want to come over here or maybe use Steve's microphone? What do you think, Steve?
Sure.
You can come over here if you'd like.
Whichever you want to do.
Don't go there. We can-
COVID negative, or just got.
All right.
He's on mute all the time.
Just 1 second.
There we go. Should.
Okay, let's zip, I'm on. How many kids is this after school or during school program going to handle approximately? I missed it if the number was given.
Our permit is for up to 40. I don't know how many will sign up.
Will there be an EMT or a nurse on hand, or will we depend on the paid service? Will they be down at this end of the town every week? John, have you discussed
No, we
that?
won't have any, no.
You don't plan on problems, but you just never know.
No, but we don't, that's not required. If we would call our faithful friends at the Unionville Fire Department, who were terrific at responding.
That's why I'm saying, we have a
Yes.
paid service. Should it
They
go down?
respond.
And this is probably only gonna last a month or two, right? Hopefully. So maybe the paid service be down here.
They're coming October 1st.
Who's coming October 1st?
The paid service will be relocated to Station 2 October 1st.
What about all of September? We would have to wait.
This doesn't start till September 10th, so you're talking 20 days.
Okay, all right, file it. Because early on, we did have, when we had some program, I was a volunteer, whatever the heck I was at that time, on call from my house. Thank God we never had trouble. Okay, next, number 2. I don't want to be a volunteer now, by the way.
Okay.
Bear, spelled B-E-A-R, not B-A-R-E. We have a mama and a daddy down there in the park. I guess they're in the cemetery once in a while. They're down at this end of town. And 2 babies, but I only see one. I don't know what happened to the other, probably got eaten by the coyotes.
Uh.
And every so often, one of these big mother bears goes chugging down Shaughnessy Road, doesn't stop at the stop sign. Of course, it might be gone now, you know, vandals, and ambles right across Clover Valley Road and goes up the mountain behind Aki and Brian's house. I'm wondering if the town can request some bear crossing signs from the state or the DEC, whoever puts them in, for that stretch of road.
Valley Road?
That would be the county.
Clove
Yeah,
Valley
County
Road,
Road.
Clove
Yeah.
Road up about to the cemetery. I don't know if the gun club has been having problems. I'm not saying.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I don't hear anything from them right now. But
Okay, we
I
can,
really would hate to see somebody plow into bear. I worry about the bear, but the car definitely would have problems. So.
Okay.
And maybe even on, Russell Road, going up the mountain.
we'll
Anyway,
ask them, we'll
bear
ask them.
crossing signs, file it. All right, where do we go from here? Looking at 12.3, you've all voted on this annexation deal, and it says, in a public hearing. Shouldn't a public hearing come before you did that vote?
Well, right now, what we voted on was inviting the town of Beekman to join us. It'll be
To
interesting.
discuss the situation.
Yeah, they would have a joint hearing, we would have a joint resolution, we would pass them in separate towns, but I mean, yeah. And they may or may not choose to, but if you read the law and the process, they don't have to, but they might, because they have nothing to lose from that annexation of that land. So they might, so we're hoping that they will.
Okay, then there are the three types of taxes on property. Town tax, fire tax, and school tax. If that property, if those 5 parcels do come to Uniondale, would we have to pay any taxes on that because it's parkland then?
We're not paying any taxes on it right now, except fire tax.
Okay.
And it's just, I think one of the issues that we have discovered, and that's been around for a long time, is that we pay taxes some years, and the taxes were taken off by board votes that was quite arbitrary.
I remember back in the zeros, 2004, 5, 11, somewhere in that range, Tommy Farmer and John O'Connor had approached Beekman about having a tax abatement deal. They went along with it. I don't know what happened.
Came
They
back
got very
on.
upset and the taxes got reassessed.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's one of the very important things
It's been a
we're trying,
revolving door.
yeah, we're trying to avoid, that shouldn't happen.
So if
but
this
the one thing-
annexation occurs, then we're done with that.
We're done with that, except that I don't know about the fire district. I know that our attorney is looking closely at that. It's, because that fire district is right there. Now, John can explain that it's kind of a mutual aid thing anyway, but we would probably still pay them, the fire district, the fire tax.
Yeah, that probably would stay the same. But right now, if there's a call, both, they would dispatch both Uniondale and Beacon.
Anyway,
So we're carrying our
There's
workload.
rarely any calls to that because it's uninhabited on, developed land.
okay.
But we won't begrudgingly, it's like $1,100 a year, and if we have to.
Okay, but that's something to really be discussed in a public meeting.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Okay, I'm sorry to be haughty, but
No, we agree
I'm a
with
nosy
you.
guy. And lastly, library. So my son comes home with printed material, 2 pages of teeny tiny, needing a large magnifier, lots of detail, lots of numbers. I have to digest that. I'll probably have to eat the paper. And then Betsy's response, with not really any numbers about costs and so on. I want us to have access to the entire library system. We voted on the budget last year. We asked and got that amount of money in the budget to pay to the system. And where is that money sitting? Is it sitting in a special account, gaining giant interest at 0.001% or something?
The money is in the general fund where all the money is, other
Okay.
than the highway money.
So I, again, for the millionth time, I would like to see us pay the Mid-Hudson Library System and just get rid of all this trash. And then maybe these kids could do little trips to the library as needed. And maybe the soccer school would have access to the library system when they're here, if they need it.
Oh, they will. Okay. They
Thank
will.
you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure I have more, but that's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
I'm gonna go over here to Steve, who's kind of the AV expert. You know, Tony really can't operate.
Take your mask off, Steve.
Yeah. I came, or I attended the last meeting on Zoom, and I gave it a hard time. I gave it a hard time because I think this board can do a better job listening and acting. And Betsy, you responded, which was a little bit unusual. Usually there's not interaction during these meetings. And I wanted to kind of comment on your comments because my 3 minutes were up by the time I had. You mentioned that the reason why residents weren't heard during April, May, and June was it was a New York State executive order. I went and looked up that New York State executive order. It says nothing about residents participating or not. I did find something on the Unionville webpage that I'll read to you that was on March 16th. It says the town board meeting agenda has been abbreviated to eliminate all non-essential items and focus on action that must be taken to fulfill financial obligations, which I kind of understand and agree with that. But then I have to ask myself the question, why were some of the topics that were on the agenda for those months on the agenda? As one immediately steps out is a couple of my fellow residents who were invited to come in and talk about a fundraising effort for the library. I didn't see that as an immediate thing. And in that same meeting, written comments regarding the board were not read during the board. In fact, ended up 2 months later in the board meeting. So I just wanted to respond because it was one of your comments. Another one of your comments had to do with agenda. You know, I've talked about agendas before, so I appreciate the fact that past 2 meetings, the agenda has been indeed available. I'd like to see it available more than 1 day in advance. Having an agenda available as a resident gives me an idea of what the topics are. I kind of do some research before I come. So it's important as a resident to understand what's going on as opposed to just listening to me retrospectively when you really don't interact at all. So thank you for the past couple of months. I'm not sure who's responsible for the agenda, but whoever did that, my only suggestion is a little bit earlier would be better. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I expressed some frustration with 3 minutes that we're given to talk. Betsy, you mentioned there's always been a restriction on the amount of time the resident has to speak.
It's actually advised. Yeah.
And you invited me to take a look at some videos from past meetings. So I did. It was raining one day and I took a list.
Oh boy, Glenn, that's retirement, huh?
And I looked at meetings for October, November, December of 2017. And I kind of chose those days because I know I spoke at one of them. I got up at one meeting and I spoke for about 20 minutes until I was finished. And I sat down and it was time to end. So 20 minutes. Betsy, I found you actually spoke at 2 of them. One of them you spoke for about 10 minutes. And one of them spoke for about 6.5 minutes and talked for the audience afterwards. So if indeed there was a time limit, it wasn't being enforced. So I just wanted to set the record straight. If indeed there was a time limit, it hasn't been enforced in the past. And restricting residents to 3 minutes just puts us in a position where we don't feel like we're part of the process. So I just asked you to try to do a better job listening. And that's my 3 minutes. So thank you.
So I will just say that first of all, it has always been advised even by Albany that you retain 3 minutes as the time for residents to speak. It's 2 to 5 or whatever they recommend. So this town has typically had 3, and that's what we set up when I first got here, is consistent. You were here one night and you spoke like 15 yourself. So we don't always adhere. It had to do with, I don't remember, it was the holiday lights or something, but we don't always adhere to it either. But you certainly do when you get multiple people in the room because you want to speed things along, and that's part of order. You also have to remember that this is a legislative process. We're here to vote on things, and I think that keeping order and moving that along is important. The process is important to view, and you can hear anything, but there are town boards that don't film anything. There are town boards that don't. Certainly people are allowed to come, and some of them have comments, but it's not required that people have comments at all. So because of the legislative process. Now, the other thing is the executive law was very specific in what the executive law said, but I had mentioned to all of you that I was on 2 conference calls a week with the county executive and all the other supervisors and mayors. And it was in those county calls that they urged us to do what we followed what most of the other towns were doing and what the county executive urged, which was get in there, do your business, and get out and get everybody home. And so that's what we did. Whether, and financially, we have to do, like tonight, we had to do some financial business. You have to be there for that. But we tried to keep our agendas rolling, although it seemed rather slow. But now it's gotten really busy again, and so things will change. And you're more than welcome to come and to speak. If we have multiple people in the room, you won't get a lot of interaction. They suggest that we listen. Public hearings, we listen, we take it all out, and then we'll factor in what people say for the vote. So I have a disagreement with you there. I think that, that when you're by yourself and you want to talk for 15 minutes about the holiday lights, we let you go. But we are trying to keep order and keep things moving. And it does get late, and the board members are wonderful volunteers. And we all need to get home too. So it's a matter of keeping it along. You do write very extensively on email. So we hear your thoughts. I think you are being heard. And you can pick up the phone anytime. And any resident can do that. Like the comments we got about Optimum. I mean, these all feed into what action we're going to take. So I feel like it's give and take. I haven't heard from anybody else that they don't feel heard. But if you do, I apologize. And you'll come to more meetings and you'll get heard more. So thank you very much. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
All right, second? Aye. That's a second.
Yeah.
You second. All right, all in favor of adjourning? In favor, aye. Any opposed? I think we're done here. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good night.